All right, good morning. Welcome to the Swiss Tech Convention Center. Welcome to EPFL. I wanted to show you this video because, as you may know, we've finished our 50-year celebration last year, and for university timelines, that's actually still pretty young. I think, are now getting kicked out of most of the young universities list. So we're now officially old. But I like this video because it gives you a bit of an idea how EPFL thinks about itself, and that it's not going to be boring in the next 50 years. So I'd like to welcome you also to this fourth edition of the Applied Machine Learning Days. As always, I'll give you just a little bit of an intro about what we have planned and what's going to happen in the next hours and days. But there's also something I want to talk about for just a few minutes about this field and the public discussion in general. And in order to get that going, I want to run another quick 50-second video. So let's roll that quickly.
Hey guys, here's a short demo of our voice conversion technology. We'll be converting my voice to the voice of Barack Obama.
What we've said consistently is that there has to be a political settlement to bring about genuine peace in the region.
The system captures the idiosyncrasies of how I say something each time I say it. I can say the same thing many times. The same thing many times. The same thing many times. And each time the recording will be correspondingly different. This makes voice conversion suitable for applications where the result should have the personality and range of emotion of a real person.
All right, so this is a startup called Respeecher. Great guys I had the chance to meet earlier this year here on campus. And when you watch this video, I think there's a couple of thoughts you can have, right? Obviously, you can think things like, wow, this is impressive technology. You can think like, that seems like a good technology for voice constitution, probably a good tool for the entertainment industry. But of course, you can also think, that can probably be used for not so good intentions as well. And the Respeecher guys are very clear about that. They have a very prominent and clear ethical statement on their website, which is extremely laudable. But I think it points to a bigger discussion here and to maybe a slightly, let's say, systematic confusion that I continue to see in the public discussion about the technology and, of course, about machine learning in general. And that is that we seem to be increasingly in the public sphere confusing the technology with the intention. I think we all agree here that machine learning is a very powerful technology. I assume that's why you're all here for the fourth time, many of you. And it's not because this is a technology that you think, well, this stuff doesn't work. It actually works extremely well. And it continues to work better and better. And when you have a technology, like any technology, it's an amplifier of your intentions. And if you have good intentions, bad intentions, it amplifies those. And I consider this an extremely important point because I'm increasingly a bit concerned about the public discussion around this. I don't know if you've seen this. There was this piece in the New York Times about 2 weeks ago or so, maybe 3 weeks, about a company called Clearview that had apparently mined 3 billion images of human faces from the web, and then made a database using face recognition algorithm, which is, of course, based on machine learning, to essentially have a searchable database of faces. And so this was already quite stunning, but then my jaw definitely hit the floor when I read that some law enforcement agencies in the US had begun to use this system. And interestingly, a few hours after this story broke, there were lots of calls for the banning of face recognition technology. And I think this is problematic, because if that same story had been about finding missing children, for example, and face recognition had been used to identify missing children and find them and reunite them with their families, it makes you wonder how many calls for face recognition banning there would have been. You be the judge. But so this is in my view the confusion, because we're instantly talking about the technology rather than its use and the regulatory framework. And the questions we should be asking ourselves is not, should face recognition be banned? In my view, it should be, how on earth is it possible for anyone to download 3 billion faces on the web in an easy way and legally? How is it possible that they can package this together and market and sell it as a product? And how is it possible that law enforcement agency finds itself in a legal frame where they think it's okay to use that technology? So we shouldn't be, this is really important, right, that we tackle the real issues. And I'm not saying that I have all the answers. This is my view that I'm giving you here. But I think if we don't tackle this properly, relatively quickly, we'll be doing worse than throwing out the baby with the bathwater. We're actually just throwing out the baby. And we're keeping the dirty bathwater with bad regulation or unadapted regulation. So this is just my one pitch to you, and then I'll go back to the program, is to say that there are many people who say all these technology people, they should really know about ethics and policy. And I agree with that, but I also increasingly see that most people who want to have a proper discussion about policy and are also making policy should also have a good background on the technology, because otherwise we're not going to go anywhere. And here, at least, we live in a free and open society, and so it's my call to you to also perhaps get more politically engaged. It doesn't mean you have to try to become a conseiller fédéral or anything like that, but just get engaged, because you are the people who understand this technology, so please get engaged in the public discussion around here as well, because we want to make sure it's used in the appropriate way. Good, so that's my 5-minute pitch about this whole discussion that we're going to have. Many of you are here for your companies, you're here for your organizations, or are here to learn. Many of you have been here yesterday and the day before. I want to thank again all the workshop organizers. If you've just started this conference today, this is not the beginning, we're actually already in day 3. But it is now officially the opening of the main conference. But it was really, again, super great to see all these workshops yesterday. And we had about 1,000 people in the building coding and learning about machine learning. Many of them sort of training their first neural network in their lives. And that's always a great experience. We've come a long way here. As you know, we started in 2017. We were just a small conference. We wanted to get this going because we felt like there's something missing in our ecosystem. There's many really hardcore technology conferences, and those are great for those of us that are really deep into the tech. There's many trade shows, sales conferences. That's great if you have a product to sell. These are important. But there seemed to be something missing in the middle. And this is what we've been trying to do. And if you look at how things have developed over time, it's been a sign that we've been on the right track. And we're extremely grateful for your feedback also over the years. Because again, we do this because you keep showing up. And if you stop showing up, we're not doing it anymore. So thanks for your continued honest feedback. We're this year, for the first time, running for 5 days. So when I say more there, what I mean is the Wednesday, which is quite new. It's an experiment. Let's see how it goes. The signs are very good. We want to have a deeper look at the economic and societal effects of AI, because much of the public discussion, again, revolves around these topics. and we need to make sure we're serious about this. And most people are not concerned about the Terminator killing them. Most people are concerned about things like jobs, skills, what's going to happen to my future. So we have also 5 workshops here on these issues. We are doing another experiment, running a workshop during the week. That's the Extension School workshop, which will run in this room for the entire day. And then we also have, for the first time, startups here. We had startups before, but this time we ramped up by about a factor of 10. They will be down in the garden level, and you can talk to them, and they will all be giving pitches. So that's the Wednesday. Now, when I say we've come a long way, that mostly means you, because we is a very small team, and you are the workshop organizers, the track organizers, the speakers who speak in these tracks, the partners who make all of this possible, and all of you who keep showing up. So thank you very much for this. Last year we said, AMLD seems to work really great for this ecosystem, and should we do it like any other conference in the sense that we become a kind of a traveling show where, next year we go to the US and then the year after we go to Asia or what have you, and we decided, no, actually it works really great for our ecosystem here. We want to keep it here. But why not try and see if other places would be interested? And so we started conversations, and many of those are ongoing. But I'm very happy to announce that the first AMLD outside of here will be in Moscow at the end of August. We'll put up the dates and everything soon. It's in the last week. At the Skoltech, if you haven't heard of the Skoltech is a very young private university. I think they're now turning 10 next year or something like that, 9 or 10 years. It was started with a partnership with MIT, just a bit on the outskirts of Moscow. I've been able to visit earlier, not this year, at the end of last year. It's a beautiful building. It was actually built by Herzog and de Meuron, for those of you who are a bit into architecture. So it's really, really nice, and we're really looking forward to this. It's going to be a 4-day AMLD. So these guys are ambitious, and we like that. But then, of course, we are going to have, again, our AMLD here next year. We'll eventually be running into space limitations here, already seeing this a little bit when it comes to the workshops. And so we're in conversations with the canton to make sure that we can have other events in those days already in the city of Lausanne and perhaps in the vicinity, also outside of EPFL campus. But the main conference is most likely be in this building again. I want to thank, of course, our partners that make all of this possible, especially also the ones on the top, which are our main partners: Swiss Re, Roche, Canton of Vaud, Swisscom, the Extension School, and Innovo, but also all the others, Bühler & Martis, Firmenich, Microsoft, SBB, Data IQ. Many of them have been with us for quite some time and keep coming back, and that's really the best signal of trust we can possibly have. I want to thank all of them. As you have seen, our booths are now much more professional than they used to be, so please go and talk with these companies. They're here for you. I want to mention 2 of the partners also here at the bottom. The first one is My Climate, and you may have read about this, but we were really keen last year when we finished to say next year we want to make this a CO2 neutral event. We got in touch with My Climate, a foundation based in Zurich, and we have now come to agreement with them offsetting all CO2 emissions that are caused by AMLD. So that includes your travel, that includes everything we eat, that includes the power we consume. Everything will be offset. And I want to just show you, if you don't know what My Climate is, I want to show you another quick 1-minute video that we can just quickly run.
You think My Climate just compensates CO2 emissions? Well, that too, there's more to it. We believe future is awesome. We shape it together. We is not just our team. We is you. People. Organizations. Businesses. Schools. Institutions. Cities. regions and states. Everyone is in, from Switzerland to the whole world, because my climate also consults, educates, analyzes, solves and does real projects. Future is awesome. Future is not someday. Future is now. It's more than using CO2 calculator. It just starts there. Calculate and compensate emissions. Reduce future impact, advise and guide, organize processes, help the ones in need, create jobs, teach sustainability, meet the UN goals. Do your best, offset the rest. We do good. What's better than good? Awesome. Future is awesome. Let's shape it together.
All right, that's my climate. If you have any ideas how we could do this even more extensively, let us know. We're eager to really iterate on this and experiment. Another partner I want to mention is this year's press partner, which is Heidi News. Heidi News, if you've never heard of it, starts with an interesting name. There's of course Heidi the character, but I've also learned recently that Heidi also stands for high D, as in high definition. And it's reader-funded journalism. It's all online, or most of it. It has a focus on science and health, and I can highly recommend it. They have a newsletter which is very interesting, and I actually wrote one myself. I was invited to write one a few days ago. But if you look at these other people who, these are deans, Nobel Prize winners, Bracken Darrell, CEO of Logitech, and so on. So these are also people that write sort of morning newsletters occasionally. That just goes to show you the buy-in and the seriousness of this, and I can highly recommend. They have a booth here as well. If they come to you, ask you questions, please talk to them. It's serious journalism, and again, sort of reflecting on the early. On what I said in the beginning, that's important that word gets out. So that's Heidi News. The team I absolutely need to mention. This is essentially the people who are running AMLD. Sylvain Bernard has done this for a few years now alone, and I cannot thank him enough for shouldering this whole thing. And if you've been in touch with him, you know how much work that is. We're very happy this year to have Pauline on the team as well, because even for Sylvain, it became too much, obviously, at this size. But I just keep being astonished what two people can do. I know there are conferences of this level and of this size that have a tenfold team. So I'm definitely not a strong believer in the mythical 10x engineer. But I can tell you the 10x event organizer exists, and this is what they look like. So thank you very much. But I also want to thank, of course, all the volunteers that are here this year that help us with everything. Much appreciated. Martin's, Bob's, and my labs that help with this. And of course, again, the speakers, workshop and track organizers, and all the partners. Extension School is something I mentioned every time here on stage. Last year, we said we delivered the first certificate of open studies in machine learning. This year, we have more than 100 course graduates that got such a diploma on machine learning mostly, and hundreds of learners that are on it. You may have run into one of these posters at the various stations. These are not stock photography, even though these are all very good-looking people. But I have been showing you these images to just show you this is how we think about this. Our intention is not to turn everyone into a computer scientist. That is not possible. It's also not necessary. It's to take people who are willing to learn and say, I already am X, Y, and Z, but I need this additional skill. And that's been working really great. And if you want to learn more, of course, you can go again to this website. And I was so excited about this animation. We have a new website, and I invite you to take a look at this. There's a new course program that's launching that's not on machine learning, but that's also on data science, but much more with a focus on communication and visualization, which is just as important. Enrollment is open now, and it launches on March 31. The program is pretty straightforward. You have it on the back of your badge. We start with this keynote session, and in the afternoon we have parallel tracks and posters as well. During the evening, then at 7 we start with the evening show. Great speakers, obviously. This is also when we'll talk to Ed Snowden and others. Tomorrow will continue. Tomorrow is all tracks, parallel tracks. You can see here the track names. And on Wednesday, as I mentioned, in the morning we have another keynote session, more on the economical aspects. And then in the afternoon we have again parallel tracks. During the entire day we have the Extension School workshop and startup pitches in the afternoon as well. Drinks on Tuesday evening. If you feel like it, come to Rhino Feroz. It's downtown Lausanne. It's there you can see the Lausanne-Flon metro station. So if you take the metro, just go to the very end, and then it's walking distance. Space is limited, and I was advised to say drinks are not included, but it's all very affordable, of course. If you're looking for power, don't look too far. You're sitting on it. Each double chair has one plug at the bottom, so you can plug in there and get recharged. But we also have charging stations at the garden level downstairs between the tracks. Last but not least, get networking. We're using Grip this year. Last year we used Wuha, worked great. This year we're trying something else. Let's see how this works. As you know, there are a certain number of possible interactions in every network. I let you do the math, but it's millions. So let's make sure we get some of those going. It's an app that sort of recommends you matchmaking intelligently, and we have spaces at the top where you can meet. Give us our feedback also on how that goes, because that will influence what we'll do next year. One word, there's another conference that we're involved with in organizing. It's called RemoteCon. That's a completely different beast. We're trying to experiment with remote. It's come up again and again, also for conferences. Current feeling is this is not the right thing for AMLD, unless you are politically confined to a certain location, which one of our speakers is. Then, of course, that's a good moment. But otherwise, not sure if this is the right thing for AMLD, because it is very much sort of a networking event also. But we want to experiment with that, and that's a conference in April that is completely remote. Nobody meets. Everything is remote. If you're interested, check it out, and we'll see if we can learn something where we can maybe experiment with next year, partially at AMLD. Who knows? Speaking of remote, as I mentioned, we have one speaker that is going to be remote, not because he wants, but because he has to. If you have questions to Edward Snowden that you would like to have posed, then you can do this at sli.do. So this is this question posing. It's already open, or it should be open, so you can use the whole day to think about what question would I like to ask Ed Snowden. And then I'll ask it for you if it's a popular question, and the event code is AMLD 2020. So I'll stop here. Again, I want to thank you very much for coming to Applied Machine Learning Days. I hope this is a good moment for you, and that you'll go back with a lot of new insights and a lot of new connections. We're very mindful of your time. We're very mindful of all the energy we're using here, so we want to make sure this is worth it for you. Good. And with that, I'll hand over to the first speaker, which, as we're joking last night, is part of the inventory by now at AMLD, Claudia Mussat, who's a research director at Swisscom and who has been with us from the very first time. Thanks very much, Claudia.